You're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast on Digital Stream Radio.
Tonight, our guest is a health and happiness coach. She is also a published author, radio show host, and serial entrepreneur. So stick around. Hey everyone, you're listening to the Breezy Moms podcast, a weekly show that chronicles the adventures of motherhood. I'm Candace. Now let's start the show. Hey!
Hey. Happy Thursday.
Happy Thursday. How are you?
I'm wonderful.
Are you? You look good.
I feel amazing today. You know what it is? It's, first of all, it's Thursday, and the Breezy Moms podcast is streaming live on Digital Stream Radio.
I almost forgot to look over there.
I know, right? Hi, guys. Hi, everyone on Facebook Live. And, and you know what it is? I find like some people get a little dreary with rain and stuff, and it's been raining for like ever. But I feel good because I don't have to water my grass, and it's like instant cheap. Like I don't have to pay the city water to do what I need. And so that makes me feel good.
I know. I leave the kids' toys open, and so then tomorrow our like water table is full of water. Everything is done. I don't have to do any prep. It's amazing.
And you know, it's the little things, right? Because you don't have to do anything to get the water that you need, and then it just makes me feel good because that's more money in my pocket.
Oh, look at you all crunchy granola today.
And I also have 2 rain barrels now.
Oh yeah.
Which are completely filled to the
brim
to the top.
Is probably coming back out on the roof now.
Well, actually, no. There's a little hose, so once it goes past a certain level, it drains out, and you can drain it out into the rest of the property.
Oh, that's smart.
But now I use it to water. I water all my stuff with that, all my plants, all my tomatoes and cilantro and all that stuff that I have in the backyard. It's amazing.
Good. I'm glad. I mean, I'm just happy because I got a nice shower in this morning. I mean, I guess that's rain related, but I feel fresh. Like this kind of weather makes your skin sticky and moist. You know, it's just like, ugh. So I got a nice long shower, and I feel guilty saying that because Emery has been sick. I know you're gonna ask. Why don't you ask me anyway, so I can jump into the story? I don't have
so, Candace, I have a question for you.
I'm listening.
How are your boys?
So I just realized I was going to jump into this thing, but I might as well use it for how the boys. So Emery has been sick. Lincoln has been sick. We've all been sick I haven't been sick for a little while, so that's why I'm okay. But everybody else has been sick for a little while, one after the other. So whatever's going on, like, it sucks. All right. And I was going to say that I feel guilty feeling nice and fresh and clean because I got a good shower in, because Emery woke up this morning at 5 a.m. and James had to deal with like a massive situation because Emery is still sick. And he came and he tapped me on my feet. I was like, Candace, you have to come. There's poop everywhere.
Oh, God.
And I was like,
No, you can handle that.
I was like, you got this. You can handle that, right?
You're like, I was asleep. I didn't hear you.
I didn't hear you. And it tasted so good. The sleep tasted so good at 5 a.m. So I was just like, I don't know. I can't understand. So I feel guilty because he had a morning of it.
No, she don't.
He had a morning of it. But in that time, it meant that the bathroom was empty. And I never get any time in the bathroom because he's got to go out of the house to work. I make sure to say that because, like, I work damn hard. So as other times I used to think, he's got to go to work, and so I'll wait and be second. But like, these people show up at my house at 7:45, so I got to be ready.
Yeah, and you run a daycare program.
I do,
and therefore that is hard work.
It is.
And I dared to argue that it's even harder work than what he does.
I'm saying it's harder than what most of you all do, because at least you get to go to the bathroom by yourself. Okay,
I do.
I'm at the bathroom with like 4 little fingers, like pulling on the door. Miss Candace, what are you doing? I was like, I need a minute. Or they're on the other side of the gate and I can see them through the crack of the door and I can see them looking for my eyes. I'm like, listen, I need a second. Just 1 second. Anyway, so today's a good day. I feel like my hair's on point. My skin feels good. It's a good thing. But hopefully whatever is happening, it'll it'll get through. James hasn't gotten sick, which has been great because he's been, actually, it makes me think of an episode of Blackish. Do you remember that episode of Blackish where everybody, it's like the plague runs through the house, but Dre manages to,
he's the only one that doesn't
right,
get it.
He's the only one that doesn't get it, so he's the one taking care of everybody. That's what James has been doing this week. So shout out to James.
Shout out to him.
Thank you for taking care of us. So.
And I do have to confess, though, it's funny because that you mentioned about shower and sweaters and God knows what not. I had texted her earlier and I said, hey, listen, it's super muggy outside. And you know how I get with muggy weather and you know how I keep my house.
The AC is on blast.
I know that we're having a guest on tonight. And so I would recommend that you text your guest and tell her to bring a sweater.
I did.
And she did.
It was smart. I got here and I was like,
ooh.
Let me get my sweater.
But it's off now. So what ends up happening is that, the upstairs of the house where the studio is tends to sort of kind of keep relatively cool. But the lower level, because it's in the basement, is a lot cooler already by itself. So I don't have a dual zone. Like I can't control the temperature down here separately from the temperature upstairs. So when it's on to cool upstairs, it's on cooling downstairs, which is already cool to begin with. So when you walk down here, it's like
ready with my vest on.
You can hang like meat carcasses down here and they would be okay.
It's true. I should probably put a vest on a hook somewhere so that I always have it.
Hey, there's plenty of hooks upstairs. You already know.
It's true. So the week has been going, it's been a rough week, I should say. But we're getting hopefully to the brighter side of it. And tomorrow's Friday, so that's another reason why Thursday always feels good. And
it's supposed to be super hot next week, like 80s and high humidity and, Yeah.
We always end up talking about the weather.
I know. Well, we're obsessed, right? Because we only get like what, 3.5 months of like decent, good, hot weather before old man winter starts creeping in.
I know.
And we haven't even gotten 3 months this year. It's rained more in the last month than I think. I've lived in Connecticut for 27 years. I don't think I've ever remember it being this rainy.
It's a lot of rain.
We haven't gone through a complete week without it raining at least 2 days.
No.
Well,
my grass looks it. I feel like I have it.
That's the upside to it, is that the greenery looks awesome.
It does. It's so vibrant, like Technicolor in my eyeballs. Yep. It's weird.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I love it. And it's free water.
Oh my God. Well, let's jump in. I want to introduce our guest.
Absolutely. Go for it.
Okay. So today,
her mouth is still juicy.
All right. I can't. All right, so here we go. Our guest in 2008 was on the Oprah Winfrey Show and the 30-something in America segment as a Muslim woman personal trainer. She owns her own training business called Balance Fitness, and because of her efforts in health and fitness, and as a Muslim educator and businesswoman, President Obama invited her as a special guest to the White House iftar dinner in both 2012 and 2013. She speaks and writes from the lived experience of her intersectionality, being an African-American woman, and everything that comes with it. She is an international speaker on business, Islam, health, fitness, feminism, being Black and Muslim, and everything in between. She's a voice in our community, and I appreciate all the work she does on our behalf. Mubarakah, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I'm so glad that you're here, and I've wanted to reach out to you for like months and months and months, and I kept thinking, she's too busy. She's got so many things going on. She's not going to be able to come to our show. But like one day I was just like, whatever. I'm just going to do it.
That's right. Just
like
act.
I had this it was exactly like this whole thing I was going through my head. And then I made this whole big email that I was going to send to you. And I hit send with my eyes closed. And she wrote back, sure, when? And I was like, what the hell?
Well, all I have to say, I have 3 words for you. You better work. That's it.
She always looks good. It's so true. So I'm super glad that you're here. I'm really excited for you to be here. Why don't we just jump right in?
Okay.
Why don't you tell us a little bit? I told everybody I was having a health and happiness coach on, and they're like, so tell me what is that? So tell us a little bit about what that is and how you got to this point.
So it was really an evolution. So for over 20 years now, I've been a fitness coach, primarily training women, helping them to lose weight, get stronger, rehab from birth, from giving birth, all those things. And it really started off as, okay, I'm a fitness coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then in reflection, that kind of like evolved to, I don't just do fitness, I also do nutrition, and we do health. It's really about overall health. And over the last, I would say, probably the last 3 to 5 years or so, I kind of like realized when I would ask clients for, how are you doing? Are you enjoying your results? What do you feel like? A lot of the response that I got was, I feel so much happier now. Like I'm happy with my body. I'm happy with my life. It gave me the confidence to, one client, becoming healthier gave me the confidence to ask for the raise that I've been procrastinating asking for, that I knew I deserved. It gave me the confidence to start my business, and my life is just so much more fulfilled. So to me, health is really just the springboard, right? So being fulfilled and being whatever that fulfillment is for you is what brings you happiness. And so my philosophy has always been that physical, mental, and spiritual well-being is intertwined. The weakness of one weakens them all, and the strengthening of one strengthens them all.
Wow.
I tell people, we're going to start with your physical well-being, and that is going to just springboard everything else. And so that's where my health and happiness come in. The health is just a springboard for you to achieve your happiness.
Makes sense.
And
that's so deep and prophetic.
Yeah.
I was like...
And
I sort of kind of got lost in there.
Yes, absolutely. And it also sounds a lot like I'm listening to what you're talking about, and the imagery is very much still based in being a fitness coach, right? Like the strength, I think about my knees being weak because my hips are weak, or, you strengthen your thigh and then it helps your knees or whatever. But just this idea that you don't set out to fix your knees, right? You set out to get stronger everywhere in that. So you don't set out to get a raise. You set out to fix your whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And then the raise comes out of that. It's fantastic unintended outcomes, right?
Yeah. I think that I think health and just physical fitness in itself becomes a springboard because it's the thing that you can control. I've recognized for a long time, one of the things that attracts me personally to physical fitness is when everything in my life is thrown up in the air. It doesn't matter how chaotic it is. I find solace in doing something physical because I may not be able to control what my kids are doing. I may not be able to control the disagreement me and my husband is making, or something that my sister said to me, but I can control my feet and I can get out there and I can run. And I can control my hands and I can lift my physical body. I always have control over. So in feeling success and achieving success, and what keeps you motivated to keep is those little wins. And so when nothing else, I had a conversation with a client the other day, and we've been training for a really long time. And one of the challenges of training somebody for 2 years, 3 years at a time is really setting those new goals, right? Because what you started off with not going to be your goal in 3 years. And
shouldn't be.
Right. And she's at a stage where she was going through some stuff at work and lots of different things. And she's like, I just feel like everything is out of my control. I said, go drink water. She's like, what? I was like, you have control over going, and you're supposed to drink this amount of ounces of water a day. You didn't achieve the goal today. So go achieve that goal. Even if it's just drinking your 70 ounces of water. At least at the end of the day, you've achieved a goal. And once you have that confidence that, okay, I did this, then you're going to do the next thing and the next thing. And then everything will fall in line.
Whoa.
That's amazing, though. It's just you figure, something just as easy as drinking water could be so hard when you put boundaries in front of yourself, or when something else causes those boundaries to go up, and you just literally you woke her up and said, go drink water, and she's what?
Yeah.
because that came out of left field and that completely stopped her. Mm-hmm. It reset and said, okay, you're right. I can go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me go drink that cup of water and then I'll come back and then what else can we work on?
Right.
It just changes your whole perspective.
Sometimes it's the little wins.
Yeah.
Not a transformation is in nothing in business and health and your physical ability is not going to happen overnight. It's just the combination of doing those little things day by day, week by week. And I use motivation as kind of like, I look at it as really tongue in cheek. People, I think the most common question that I get asked is, how do you stay motivated? Right. Mm-hmm. So people watch my social media, I work out consistently. How do you stay motivated? And I was like, motivation is really doesn't matter. It absolutely does not matter at all. Mm-hmm. Your biceps do not care if you're motivated. It cares whether or not you lift that weight. So motivate what in order to keep yourself what you would feel would be like motivation. People aren't looking for motivation. They're looking for the ability to be disciplined. They're looking for the ability to have consistency. And we use motivation because it sounds good. I need motivation. No, you don't. You need discipline. You need consistency. And the way that you achieve that is you got to set goals every single day, every single workout, every single, I'll give you another example. What besides health and fitness, I also do some business coaching to help people develop their online business. And I have a client now, and I may have been a little hard, but sometimes people need a push.
You need a little of that tough love.
And so her daughter was sick, and they couldn't she has a 2-year-old, and they really could. She kept on taking her to the doctor 2-3 times a week. She kept on, her fever would go up, it would go down, it would go up, it would go down, and they couldn't really figure out what it was. And so she wasn't doing the homework that I gave her. Oh, and
you're like, yeah, but
yeah, but it was little things like, start your Facebook page, change your cover photo, get this logo done, things that will literally take 20 minutes. And I told her, I was like, you have 20 minutes. Even though your daughter's sick, even though she's one of 3 children, I am sure that you have 20 minutes. And if you don't make yourself just do that one thing, 5 clicks to create a Facebook page, right? If you don't make yourself do that one thing, you're going to regret it later. And that's how I think women in particularly, we sabotage ourselves in allowing other things to get in our way, allowing our kids and our spouse, and I can't. You can't, but you don't watch the whole season of Power. You can.
That's real. You can.
That was willpower.
Yes. You got 20 minutes.
Yeah, so. I've watched the latest season of Fleabag twice. So we can talk about that later.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the joys. Netflix ruined everything for us because the days of waiting every week for the next episode or the next day is over. And so it's like binge watching is a thing now.
Yeah, I can't handle shows that I can't binge.
When Handmaid's Tale came back out, I was like, no, I can't watch the first 3 weeks. You got to watch 3 episodes at once. Now I can wait week after week, but I got to watch 3 episodes at once. I can't
I'm not even going to get involved.
It's hard to do that. And so even that, finding the willpower to say, okay, I'm going to get through one episode. I have things to do. Let's move on. And I'll come back to this next week. It will be there. Well, unless Netflix
at my house,
decides to pull it or something.
At my house, there's a TV in front of the treadmill. So that's not the thing.
Problem solved.
Not the thing. Yeah. Can you go back? You said something that I want to linger on for a second. You talked about discipline and consistency and motivation. All of those things as 3 separate things. And I can't remember what you just said, Tommy, but those 3 things, I think sometimes we conflate or confuse motivation for discipline. Can you give a clear, what you see as discipline? I mean, we know the Webster definition of it, but in this context, situation, in this context, what does discipline and consistency and motivation look like?
So I revert back to our mom's and grandma's definition of discipline is doing what you have to do when you're supposed to do it, whether you feel like doing it or not.
Oh my.
That is what discipline is.
That just hit me. I wasn't ready. I was like, yes, Mom.
Right away. I'm on my way.
All right. Doing what you have to do when you're supposed to do it, whether you want to do it or not.
Absolutely.
Got it.
So that's discipline. And the discipline leads to the consistency. And people take those two things and they misinterpret them as having motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and it goes. Some days you have motivation, some days you don't. Tell people I do what I need to do in the gym every single day, not because I'm motivated, because there's plenty of days I'm like, I would definitely rather sleep.
Right?
I don't want to be here right now. But you do it because this is the goal that I have, and in order to achieve that goal. So one of the goal setting techniques that I use for clients is I give them a sheet where they can plan an entire year out. But within that year, I believe in planning your year, bringing it back to your quarter, bringing it back to your month, your week, and your day. So I have to say that I am really anal about time management. My husband says that I need calendars anonymous. I have a calendar for everything. But it's what really keeps you on track, keeps you focused, and keep you disciplined. So when we talk about achieving goals, I really urge people to set your larger goal. So begin with the end in mind. I want you to set your larger goal. So they have like a one box where they set the larger goal. Now give me 3 things that you need to do on a weekly basis in order to achieve that by the end of the month. Now of those 3 things, give me 3 things associated with those 3 things that you need to be doing every single day. So if that means by the end of the month, you want to lose 10 pounds. And for you, that is, I know I don't drink water, right? So I need to drink water on a daily basis. And then I'm going to break that down to I am going to drink 20 ounces of water with every meal, right? So now you've broken it down and you don't have to think, oh my gosh, by the end of the day, I need to drink like 80 ounces of water. You know, okay, my meal I'm going to get it in for this meal. I think people think too far ahead. And especially if you have a big goal. So if somebody want to I want to, open up a business and have my products in a store. And that may be a year away. And if you're just sitting like trying to figure out what your logo is, you're just like, that may seem like far fetched. Or even I want to lose 100 pounds by the end of the year. And you're just like, oh my God, I don't even know what to eat for dinner. Right. And people will give up because you're not paying attention to the little wins. Create your little wins in whatever you're doing. So that applies to everything that you're doing in life. If you create your little wins, that is going to continue to snowball into bigger and bigger and bigger wins.
That's amazing. I like that. And it's so simple. Like, I feel like sometimes we make any of our goals, we make it feel like it's so hard. Even James is telling me, stop saying that things are so hard.
Right.
Because words matter, right?
Yes.
That everything I say, I start with, it's so hard because, you're readying the excuse. You're readying it.
I tell people think about when you speak, you have literally internalized it and said it to yourself 3 times before it even reaches someone else's ear.
Oh my God.
In order for you to say it, you have to first think it. Words are physical. They're coming across your tongue, your tonsils, your lip. You're physically manifesting those things out your mouth, and your ears are the closest thing to your mouth. So you've already told yourself, you've convinced yourself 3 times before you've even said it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So the words that you choose are super important. So like in boot camp, I don't let people say that things are hard. I'm like, what does that feel like to you? If they say it hard, I'm like, oh, so it was effortful. There's no hard. It was effortful.
Yeah.
So it made you use a little effort.
Right.
So does that help reset their thinking when you immediately go and say, no, you don't say hard.
Absolutely.
It's effortful.
Absolutely.
And can you describe a reaction that you may have gotten with someone that you're working with and where you went in and you immediately said something that changed their mindset? that face? What's the face? You know, like, and how do you feel when you see someone snap into it and be like, oh, whoa, yeah,
that's it.
That made sense.
Yeah. I think that the immediate response that I normally get, which is good, is normally laughter. Because that makes everything better.
Right.
And sometimes I get a little eye roll.
Those can be interesting.
But for me, I'm looking at the action that happens after it, right? And so I like it when someone, particularly when it comes to like a certain type of exercise, and I'm like, okay, it was effortful. And they're like, yeah, I was like, so if you just put a little bit more effort in it, you can do it. And then they just bust it out, right? They bust out the extra 5 reps that they thought that they couldn't do. It's the action that happens that I think that makes the biggest difference. And for me, it makes me feel really good because I know that that is just going to be the beginning, right? So when it comes to marketing fitness, right? So it may be marketed, and this is a little kind of like a trainer vaccine, is that we know we can't market, oh, come exercise with me so that you can feel happier, right? No one comes to your studio and say, can you help me feel happier?
Yeah.
Right? But you can you get people in the door with what they think they want, and then you give them what they need. And that is where the health and the happiness all kind of collide. So somebody may come to me and they may say, well, I want to lose 50 pounds. And on the way of them losing that 50 pounds, they'll report like, oh my gosh, my knees don't hurt anymore. Oh, isn't that great? Like, and oh, I just felt so good in the store. I can put on these pants, and I felt really. Recently, I had a client, and this really made me really happy. Is that she initially came to me, but obviously because she wanted to lose weight, which is what 90% of people come to you for. And along the way, she started talking to me about just her childhood and always being chunky and always being recognized as chunky, and even her parents like telling her, you need to lose weight, you lose weight. And when she lost a significant amount of weight, and she showed her mom a picture of herself, and she was trying on some pants that she had never been able to fit into. And she said, my mom told me that I looked good, and she literally got teary-eyed. Like the acceptance that she got from her mother, which really shouldn't be about your weight, but it's there,
real.
Right? It's real. I think that made me feel made me feel good that it even affected her relationship with her parents.
Right.
Like it gave her a better, more positive relationship with her parents. And her mother went from saying, oh, when I come visit you, I'm going to make all your favorite things. And when her mother got here and she saw her and she saw how well she was doing, and she was like, you just tell me what you want me to make you, because I don't want to mess up
any of this.
You're doing great.
That's amazing.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize how important acknowledgement from those that you love and those that you've always looked up to, how important that acknowledgement is. And so I think that serves to not only the emotional aspect of feeding yourself something positive, but from a spiritual level.
Absolutely.
Because, when you think about family is what grounds you, right? It's what you grow up with. It's what you know since you were a baby. And so most of your markers, most of the things that make you who you are, you learned from your family.
Yep.
And so when you look to your family members for grounding and you get it, sky's the limit.
Absolutely. I believe that. I completely agree. Because I think that it wasn't as much about the weight as it was about the acceptance.
Yeah.
About her mom feeling proud of her. And that kind of stuff really touched me and make me feel really, really good. I think one of the first times that I kind of like I saw that mother-daughter relationship and how just health just fits into it. I had one client, and she was from Sudan, and she was battling with her cholesterol. And she's like, I really don't want to go to my doctor basically gave her an ultimatum. 3 months, you come back here. If this cholesterol isn't down, you are going on medication. And she had been kind of like dodging the medication for over a year. She tried every diet, nothing affected the cholesterol. So she came to me and we got her cholesterol numbers down to normal within that 3 months. And her mom was so happy. She was a Coptic Christian from Sudan. Her mom sent me a whole box of headscarves from Sudan because she was so happy that I helped her daughter.
Yeah.
And she was just like so proud. So she's like, my mom sent this to you. I'm just so, and I was so touched.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I was so touched. And it was just like, it was something that they celebrated together.
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of stuff really touched me.
Well, how did you get into health, becoming a fitness coach and becoming a coach? Because it sounds like in everything that you do, you're basically coaching. Mm-hmm. And knowing a little bit about your background, you have a lot of different things have brought you to this space. Can you talk a little bit about how you decided to
mm-hmm.
become a coach, whether a fitness coach or a
So I became a fitness coach because I had some complications during my pregnancy with my first child. So I have 4 children. They're all young adults now, between 18 and 25. But when I was pregnant with my oldest son, when I was 6 months pregnant, I had a condition called pelvic synthesis, which is the collapse of the pelvic bone. So the pelvic bone doesn't physically collapse. What happens is when a woman gives birth, so our pelvic bone is 2 pieces that kind of like sits here, and then it sits there to support us, right? When a woman gives birth, when you're in active labor, your pelvic bone literally loosens up and opens. So a lot of people, they hopefully tongue-in-cheekly say, oh, baby's going to fit out of there. Mm-hmm. The baby actually doesn't fit out of there in the tight space that it is right this minute. Mm-hmm. Your pelvic bone literally opens up. And about 10% of the women that can happen early, and it generally happens within 24 hours of the birth. And it happens because of hormone signaling in your body. Your body knows it's time for the baby to come out. And so it signals hormones to relax those tendons and everything and allow it to open up. My case was unique because it happened 3 months prior.
Wow.
And what happens when your pelvic bone opens up is it cuts off the nerve signaling to your legs. So it was painful, but not as painful as people probably assume that it is. The biggest distinction that happened, or biggest thing that happened, is that I physically could not walk.
I mean, that's pretty big.
Yeah. So I could stand up, and you stand up, and then your brain tells your legs to walk. There's no signal, so the brain was not telling the legs to walk. So I was in a wheelchair for 3 months. And so when I got pregnant with him, I was 115 pounds. When I gave birth to him, I was 198 pounds.
Wow.
And most of it was gained in those last 3 months.
Right. Oh, my God.
It did not help at the time that my husband was a cook at Friendly's at that time and brought ice cream home every single night. So we ate lots of root beer floats. Lots of root beer floats. But what I would do, so this was 25 years ago before there was internet, is I would call the library and ask them to put books aside, and then tell my husband, can you go by the library and pick up these books? And so I would studying all of this, how do you eat to lose weight? How do you eat when you want to lose weight and you want to breastfeed? How to do this? What herbs can you take to increase your milk? And so and I put myself together this super plan. Right? And after I had him, so I knew right away that, I had to get rid of the weight. I have, in my mother's side of the family, has a very strong history of diabetes. My mother has diabetes. Her mother had diabetes. Several aunts that have diabetes. And I
didn't want diabetes.
I didn't want diabetes, and I just knew that there was, ever since I was a teenager, I'm like, I know there's something you could do to avoid diabetes.
Yeah.
And on my father's side of the family, high blood pressure runs really, really rampant on that side of the family. My father died when I was 11 from a stroke induced by high blood pressure. We don't think he even knew he had high blood pressure. Wow. My grandmother, she passed away from an aneurysm from high blood pressure. Aunt from the same thing. all of my aunts have high blood pressure. So we have a really strong history of both of those diseases. But both of them, even though they're in, and this is really important that I really want to reiterate, you can have a genetic tendency towards something, but it doesn't make it your destiny.
Right.
You don't have to get those things because people in your family. There's a saying that we say, I used to think that diabetes run in my family, but then I realized nobody runs in my family.
Right.
So those are lifestyle diseases.
Yes.
So I knew that I wanted to lose the weight after the baby, and I had to go to physical therapy and learn how to walk again and stuff like that. But after I did that, I really put together on my own kind of like a progression program, and I lost the weight. So I had my son in February, and my goal was to be back down to my weight by my anniversary at the end of June. And I lost my weight, and I got like 5 pounds before I got to like 120.
Wow.
And women in the mosque started noticing that I lost the weight, and they were like, "Oh, can you help me lose weight? Can you help me lose weight?" And the funny thing is that before I did that, and so I started helping people like, "Oh, this is the program, and you need to change it every 4 weeks," because I had done a lot of reading and self-education. And a friend of mine, I was helping her recreate her program and tweak it. And she was like, "Mom, Barker, you're pretty good at this. You should become a personal trainer." And I was like, "You can make money doing this?" I literally had no idea what it was. I had no idea. So at the time when I had graduated from high school, I went to Albertus Magnus College, and I majored in English and minored in psychology.
Okay.
When that light bulb went off, next semester, I switched to Southern and majored in exercise science. I was like, I love doing this.
Yeah.
This can be a career, and I can make money doing this. I want to major in exercise science.
That's great.
And so that's actually how I got into fitness coaching.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really important when you notice that you have a talent in something and you have a desire to get better and to like make this thing your thing,
right,
then you can do anything.
Absolutely.
That's incredible.
Find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
That's so real.
Yeah.
That's so real. So, I'm thinking out loud here. What I wanted to try not to do, because, as a Muslim woman and a scarf wearing hijabi Muslim woman, it must be the first thing that people always ask, right? And I don't want to make this about my Muslim coach friend, right? But I do recognize that you have found some, serious success and impact in your community. And it's a group of people, a large group of people, right, that perhaps get ignored in this space. I mean, I'm thinking even about modest activewear, modest cool modest wear, like all of those things. It's only now that Muslim women and hijabi wearing modest women are getting some attention in fashion and in athletics and all of that stuff. Can you talk a little bit about how you focus on the Muslim community and particularly Muslim Black women is what I feel like your focus, especially locally, has been on. How was that a conscious decision, and how do you feel that has impacted your community?
So my focus on Muslim women in particular has waned in and out. When I first became a trainer, that was my goal. I recognized that Muslim, particularly hijabi women, did not move enough. They did not take care of their physical body. One of the things that is different about, I think, if we can use the term motivation again, the motivation of Muslim women versus non-Muslim women is we have no little black dress to fit in. There's no bikini season. There's no holiday.
And you just hide under the muumuu, right? It's like, ooh, ice cream doesn't matter.
Right. I always tell people, like, a non-Muslim woman can walk by the store window and be like, okay, my shirt is getting a little tight. Muslim woman, we don't notice it till you're in the shower. Be like, oh, where that robe come from? Where that come from? You don't notice it until you're in the shower because you're always covered. Right. Your clothes is always loose. Well, it's really common, and I even did this myself. Even when I wasn't overweight, I remember working out with a girlfriend, and we were like, okay, let's set goals. And she had recently become Muslim. So she was like, okay, well, I fit inside this size jeans and my goal is this size jeans. What size of jeans you want to fit in? And I was like, I don't think I own a pair of jeans. I literally did not know my pant size because I'm like, medium? Because everything that you get needs to be loose.
Right.
So even if as a Muslim woman, I tell you like I fit inside of size 10, if I was a non-Muslim woman, that might be an 8 or 6 because the clothes is just tighter for non-Muslim women. It's like a different standard. And so it's really easy to let yourself go. And it has to be an internal motivation. It has to be a consciousness, right? You're not going to have people like constantly. I tell you a funny that me and President Obama, me and Barack, as we were chatting.
I love it.
So when I had dinner with President Obama, so it's about, I want to say it's 8 people at the table with him. And so he tried to engage everybody. He's such a good conversationalist. And so he looks at me, who I'm sitting directly on his right, and he goes, so Mubarakah, what are some of the challenges Muslim women have when they're about working out? And now, I talk a lot, and I'm like,
I'd be that way too.
I mean,
I'm sorry, but that
I didn't even remember my name when he asked me what my name was. Okay. I was like, yours?
He's like, so is it because they don't have, because he was like, he noticed that I was like tongue tied. So he's like, so is it because they don't have any place to work out? And I was like, I said, no, President Obama. I said, because I own a fitness studio and 90% of my clients are non-Muslim. Like very few, like there's a lot of Muslim women in my community, but they don't come to my studio to work out. He's like, he said, I guess it's not any motivation for your husband to say anything because you can look at him and say, you're not so hot yourself, bud. And I started laughing.
Oh my God.
And I said, or you can look at him and say, you should love me because I love God.
Oh, the two of you.
We both was like laughing, mouth open about the response Muslim women were having.
Oh my God.
So I think that's also part of it, that there is no... And in the Muslim community itself, I know I probably have Muslim women listening, and this is true. There is kind of a tradition that you should not marry somebody because of their physical appearance, and you should focus on their spirituality and their love for God and their knowledge and stuff like that. But Muslims are humans. Muslims are humans. So there is definitely the physical comes in play.
Can I roll back a little bit? When you were talking about the gifts that you got, you had gotten some headscarves sent to you. You mentioned something about a Coptic Christian. Can you describe that a little bit? Because I've never heard the term before.
So
and it just stuck in my head.
Nope. So they are Coptic Christian, which is a type of Christian. I don't know what makes Coptics different than Baptist or Protestant or whatever, but it is a type of Christian community that's in Sudan. And it stood out because Sudan is like 99% Muslim country.
Gotcha.
And so it's very few Christians. So their Christian community is very concentrated. And so she was from Sudan. And I always tend to tell the story like that so that people are aware of, like, she wasn't Muslim just like going to the store getting me a scarf. Like, she was not even Muslim, and she went through the effort of going and buying me.
That's amazing.
Scarves.
So they don't wear scarves themselves, or
she's
their
Christian.
headdress.
She's not Muslim.
She's Christian. She doesn't have to. So for Muslims, it's for many Muslim women, we look at it as obligatory, but Christians are
gotcha.
Don't look at it that
Yeah,
way.
I was just curious because I've never heard the term before, and
I hadn't either before I met her.
That's awesome though. But and so she sent you a whole bunch of these, different scarves, and do you still use them?
I do.
Amazing.
My daughter used to get in trouble all the time for using them. My daughter takes my clothes all the time, and I don't mind. And of course, I'm never going to complain if she wants to take one of my scarves. I'm like, except for that one, right? You got to put that back. That was a gift. You can't wear that one. I don't want no mustard stains on it. Nothing. That's my special scarf.
I love it.
That's awesome.
So I just wanted to ask you one more thing about, because I want to make sure that we take from this a couple like concrete suggestions that you might have for someone if they're stuck in a rut or just stuck at step one, right? What are 2 or 3 things that you think people can do to get moving in the right direction, whether that's in health or happiness?
Exactly that. Get moving. So one of the things that gets people motivated, so this is what the research tells us. A lot of times, particularly when it comes to weight loss, the first thing people want to do is diet. If you're stuck and you just have no motivation, you actually should not start with your diet. You should actually start with physical movement, because what they find in research is that movement is what they call a snowball habit. Diet is not. So there's one research study where they took 2 group of participants who smoked cigarettes, and they had one group and they told them, we want you to walk 30 minutes 3 days a week. And the participants assumed that they were like calculating, like if they was consistent or whatever. And they asked them how many cigarettes they smoke a day. We want you to walk 3 times a week. The other group, we were like, okay, how many cigarettes do you smoke a day? We're going to track your cigarettes. Did not give them any instruction for exercise. They found that the group that exercised either completely stopped smoking or significantly reduced their smoking habit, simply by physically moving. And this type of study has been repeated over and over, looking at other health habits. But if they've taken the same study and they've done things like, here, drink water every single day. At the end of the study, all they did was drink water, right? So exercise is considered a snowball habit. When people move, they actually automatically start picking up other healthy habits. They don't want that movement to be in vain. So the first thing that I would say, and it doesn't have to be, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour, commit to something that you absolutely know you have time. I'm going to take a 10-minute walk every single day, right? So if that 10 minutes, I feel good after this 10 minutes, and now I'm doing 15, and then I'm going to do 20. But on that day that you're really busy and you can only get 10, again, small win. You still got that small win, even when you haven't done. So start small and start with movement. And I think that really does apply to everything else. When you move, your brain functions better. You have better focus. You are more creative. We know that kids learn better when they are doing recess and physical activity. Movement is really the foundation of every type of success that you want to have in your life. People don't like that because people say they don't like to exercise, but I tell you, it doesn't have to be.
But I mean, it makes sense. But even for someone that's dieting, for example, no matter what diet you're on, it still takes movement in conjunction with that diet to help you achieve that goal.
And to keep that goal.
And so if you're moving anyway, no matter what diet you do, you're still encouraging yourself to work towards a healthier you by just simply moving.
And people who add exercise to their diet to lose weight are more likely to achieve their goal. They're more likely to maintain it. Right? So if somebody lose weight just by diet, and then somebody lose weight by diet and exercise, they're actually the people who diet and exercise are going to be more successful than the people who just follow the diet. So movement is really, really so essential. And sometimes it's a hard sell, because I think that one of the things that one of the shows I think that really changed things not for the best, it really is The Biggest Loser. Gave people unrealistic expectations as to how you lose weight. Also gave people realistic expectations as to what you need to do to lose weight, right? So people, when you tell them to move, to exercise, they're like, oh my God, I got to join your boot camp. No, even if you don't join my boot camp, it's okay. You can go for a walk. You can commit to say, hey, I'm going to do, 10 push-ups a night or 20 squats or whatever it is. Make it doable, small bites, and then add on. Yep.
I love it.
That's amazing.
I love it.
Now I have one more question for you. Yeah. You're a mother of 4.
Yes.
Candace is a mother of 2. This is the Breezy Moms podcast. So it's, we talk about kids a lot. how do you find it trying to motivate children and kids and youngsters versus adults? How do you work with kids, or have you ever worked with kids from a motivational perspective?
So that is a complicated answer for a last question because every age is very different. Every age is really, teenagers obviously is the hardest. And so there's no one answer to that. So I think that it's easier to motivate / manipulate smaller children.
That is true.
Smaller children, they look a lot to like your example. If your kids are smaller and you're trying to motivate them to do anything, whether it's like you want to motivate them to entrepreneurship or they really look to your example. So you know that I have a radio show and I interviewed an 11-year-old author, and it was her and her mom. And her mom herself is an entrepreneur and an author. And she set goals for her kids that they needed to start businesses by the time they were 13.
Wow.
And she was like, when her daughter came to her at 11 and she was like, her and her husband was like, should we let her start this, let her do this? I was like, oh, so she came early. Right? She was like, yeah, basically. And so I think that having that example, so I was curious. So like the mom was an entrepreneur. Her father was an entrepreneur. So the children are around entrepreneurship. And so it encourages them towards entrepreneurship. And I think this certainly the same thing when it comes to health, like health and fitness is certainly all about, being example, doing things active as a family, not that you can't go to the movies as a family, but every so often say, hey, let's go for a hike, right? Or let's go play soccer, or you have to keep kids active. Teenagers are motivated a little bit differently, and it can be a lot of the teens, when I say teens that I think that I've trained, they've been high school age teens. It has a lot to do with vanity, which is okay. The dudes want to I want to bulk up, and the girls are just like, oh, I just want a smaller waist, and I want this, and so it's one of those. That's certainly one of those things of like, you got to give them what they think they want. And then look at the benefit that you have. Oh, you played soccer all day in recess and in gym, and you came and you still had all of this energy to work out with me. Like, you show them that kind of stuff. And young adults, you just got to kind of just tell them. You tell them and then leave them alone. And they come around on their own. Some of them come around, and they're full-fledged. All my kids, I think, have adopted a health and wellness kind of motivation at different levels and on their own. Some of them struggle still, oh, I know I need to do this, mommy. I know I need to do it. And it really is kind of letting them go. So I don't think she would mind me putting her out on Front Street. So my daughter, who's 19, for about a year, I would pick her up every morning and we would go to the gym and we would, and she lost weight and she was she felt so good. She was able to run up Sleeping Giant Mountain and we would run down and she felt really good. And then she kind of fell off the wagon. And then she came to me last summer. She's like, oh, mommy, I really need you to come and get me again. And I was like, no, I'm not. I said, because there was a couple of reasons for it. One, it is very, very hard to make sure she's awake. She's not a morning person. So that was my personal reason. I'm like, I do not want to spend 15 minutes outside your house again every morning waiting for you to get up. And my thing for her was she wants to move to LA and she wants to be a star. She sings. She does spoken word, all this other stuff. She's a phenomenal artist. But I told her, I said, if your goal is to be independent of us, you have to adopt this habit and healthy habits on your own. You can't depend on me to do it. So I think at some point you do have to cut the cord and say, look, you need to do this for you. You're not doing this because I'm waking you up or I'm making you do it or I'm motivating you. And I think that also, too, is kind of like that transition into adulthood. You have to get to the point where you're doing it for yourself. Like, I'm not waiting because, I don't have an accountability partner. Nobody in my community wants to walk with me. I tell people, when you get diabetes, nobody can take that needle and put in their arm for you. You will have to put that needle in your own arm. So that's what you need to think about every time you got to get up and you go running by yourself.
You have your own 2 legs.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Use their legs to go walking?
Right.
It's like, you've got your own. Go walk.
You cannot wait for anybody else. You have to do it for your own self.
I can't talk. But, it is what it is.
It is what it is. You start out small. Maybe this be the motivation. Right?
I think I'm going to go walk around the block when we're done. That's amazing. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I think, I have truly been just completely mesmerized by your whole aura and your whole way of being and the way you look at things, right? Because, positive outlook actually, it's amazing. It rubs off.
Absolutely.
And so thank you for that. That's amazing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to wrap up with this. I have one question here that someone sent me for you, but he said, the way you look, you look incredible, right? You look incredible. And I remember we were at an event the other day and people were like, so what is it with your face? Like, your face is glowing. Your skin is so clear. Like, I was listening to this guy just last night and he's like, we all have this idea that we get older and we age and it's just what we buy into. Everybody has said it. We've always said it. But what if you didn't believe that? What if you didn't believe that age came with like looking old and you just felt like you could be your best self every time? And you look incredible.
Thank
you
you.
don't look
Awesome.
I don't know how old you are, but I know you're older than I think you are, right?
I believe in biohacking. I completely agree that. It's like, there's a saying that says, grow old gracefully. Oh, no, I'm going to fight it every step of the way.
Right.
Biohacking.
I'm fighting it.
Biohack, I believe in science, using science, and not science meaning like, go get a facelift kind of stuff, but... So I do have to put a plug for my keto diet. I do have to say that has probably been the biggest difference in my physical appearance that people make comments about the most. And like, people are really like, oh my God, you are aging backwards. And a ketogenic diet does that. So I think that makes a huge, because the health effects is very internal and it just shows on an external level. And so I think that makes a really, really big effect. And it not just for me. I remember I put a picture of a client of mine, her 3 months before keto and after keto. And like, several people commented, they were like, oh, before I read your caption, I thought that was a mother and daughter. Like, literally the way that it made it changed her skin and the glow, and it really does make a difference. So I think that I credit a lot to that.
I agree. My husband is doing probably like it's keto. I think it's keto. I'm not doing, you can see I'm not doing it because I don't know any of the details, but like, his skin is always shiny. His beard is fuller. You know what I mean? It's real. Yeah. It's definitely real. So I had one question that came in before the show, and the question is, do you believe that showing and receiving love is optimal for overall good health?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So here is, I love research studies. So there is a research and a book called The Blue Zones. And I can't remember the researcher's name, but one of the things, so what he did was he literally went around the world to different communities who had a large population that lived beyond 100. So there's like a community in China, a community in Africa. In the United States, it's actually a Seventh-day Adventist community somewhere in Middle America. And so he went to all of these communities. And the very first lecture that I heard of his, what really stood out to me was he talked about like how everybody's diet was very different. Some people ate high fat, some people ate low fat, some people ate grains, some people didn't. The diet was not the distinguishing factor. The one thing that was consistent in all of these communities was their attachment to community and having lifelong friends. Friendship was the only thing that existed in every single community that they can attach to longevity. So having attachment to community, which is becoming harder and harder with all of the Facebook and social media. Social media makes us less social. And when I heard his lecture, what I did differently for myself, because people who know me know that like I'm always on social media. I recognized that was like you feel like you know somebody because you're on social media. What I did for myself is I promised myself at least once a week I'm going to have coffee with somebody, a friend, somebody off of Facebook, invite them to coffee that I know, to have a face-to-face. We are meant for human contact, and that contact literally helps us to live longer. So I'll leave you this one last study. Not just love in the emotional sense, but literal physical contact. So there is it's an actual verifiable, I guess that's not a disorder, but it's a deficiency that you can achieve. It's literally called skin hunger. When you do not physically touch another human being, you actually become depressed. And they found that when someone just as gently as touch your arm, the parts of your brain that lights up is the same parts that light up when you eat chocolate.
Oh, wow.
I know how I'm going to give up chocolate.
I'm touching you, Candace.
There you go.
But I mean,
finally give up chocolate.
There you go. Just get lots of hugs.
Fair warning. Just, make sure they're appropriate hugs, make sure they're appropriate touches, and that they're welcome.
Right? I don't want no Me Too hashtags saying Mubarakah told me to touch her.
Oh, that's amazing, though. But I mean, it makes sense. I mean, you're right. I feel more connected when I'm with people physically. Like even when I'm here in my own home, I'm most happy. I'm at my happiest when I'm in the backyard and we're grilling and we're, having a cocktail or a bottled water and chicken and all that good stuff. And here's some guacamole and let's sit down and let's play dominoes and let's interact and let's just feel each other's energy. Another thing I think that that's also important is grounding yourself with the elements of the earth.
Absolutely.
When you're going hiking, sit on a rock, touch it, feel it, feel the earth. The energy is just
garden
amazing.
With no gloves.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Easy.
Yes.
It's like good. When your kids are running in the backyard, if they have no shoes on, they're constantly
asking me about that these last few days. Can I take off my shoes? I don't want to wear any shoes. So I'm trying, we're all free, we're a little bit free range.
Yeah.
So I let them go out there. And now I have to tell Lincoln, please bring your clothes inside. I don't want another area that I have to go and pick up laundry from.
Right.
You're responsible for bringing. So he's running around in his underwear, just underwear in the backyard. Yeah. Emery is just in diapers and they're just wild and free.
They're living their best life.
This skin hunger thing, I totally believe because I moved to Connecticut ahead of my husband a couple months, maybe 6 months. And I remember it was the year that President Obama got elected and I was sitting in my apartment by myself.
Glorious.
I mean, it was glorious, but I was sitting in my apartment by myself. It's November. It's a little bit cold. I don't even have cable. So I'm precariously hanging an antenna off of the side of the thing. And I'm by myself. And I literally was I don't have anybody to high five. I'm so excited.
I wish
I don't
I knew
have
that.
anybody to high five. I haven't and then I can remember this exact thinking. I can't high five anybody. I haven't hugged anybody in a long time. I haven't touched him because he was still in Boston and I didn't know anybody here and I wasn't supposed to be touching anybody else. So I wasn't touching anybody. Right. And so I just remember feeling so lonely and distraught, even though I was supposed to be so excited because it was election night and so much so that it's 11 years later and I can feel the cold in the apartment and see the thing of longing for some physical connection or some connection to someone, because I was here in Connecticut, in Hamden, by myself. I didn't know anybody.
Right.
Lord have mercy. We I would have invited you over. I threw a party.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
On election night, we threw a party. We had hors d'oeuvres. We had drinks. We had everything. And we sat there and we watched those results come in. And when they finally announced it, and he came out and gave that amazing, the most amazing, memorable speech.
Wind blew and my antenna fell off. I had to put it back. Like, it was a whole thing.
It was everything. It was everything.
great.
And when he won again, it was just icing on the cake.
Right?
Yeah. We literally threw a party. I lived in 9th Square in downtown New Haven. And I remember I had a 2-bedroom apartment with like exposed brick, and we had a massive like flat screen that was like this thick. Because at the time they used to be like thicker, and now they're like really skinny. And so we were just sitting on these couches, and just like literally we're all staring and just watching and watching. Oh, they've got an update. Oh, they've got an update.
Right.
And every update that was coming in, it was just more great news and more good news. And I'm like, oh my God, this is going to happen.
So maybe I remember it because it was exciting, but I still remember the skin hunger now that I have a word for it.
Yeah.
That's
Skin
really
hunger.
good.
It is a
skin
thing.
hunger is a thing. It's a thing. Well, Mubarakah, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are so
Absolutely.
lovely.
Thank you. This was a great conversation.
Absolutely. And I love seeing you around town. Like, we literally live a couple blocks away from each other. And I saw your daughter on the green on Saturday dancing through the crowd. Like, it's a small community. And sometimes I see your husband or your son and I want to say something. I'm like, oh, they don't know that I know them. Like, right?
They're used to it now. I tell people,
they're local
if
famous.
you see them and you don't want them to think you're a weirdo, just be like, I'm friends with your mom on Facebook. And they'll be like, oh, okay. Yeah.
It's amazing. So you're doing an amazing job. You've got the pies, pies, which is so cool. Like, I just love that you're doing so many different things and you don't let any of them box you in, right? Let any of them keep you from doing what you want to do. And it's so easy for us women, moms, to feel like either we don't have time for another thing, or since we've decided this is our thing, then we can't possibly do something else. So thank you for showing that you can be anything you want to be.
Absolutely.
I love it. All right, well, and I'll say, come back anytime. I'd love to have you back.
Absolutely.
Anytime.
Absolutely.
Okay, so let's wrap up.
All right. So do you have your hashtag MomSoHard tip of the week?
So I did, but I think it'd be cooler to ask Mubarakah if she had a MomSoHard tip. So every week we do what's a thing that you do in your household or in your life that helps you, like significantly helps you, that other people might not think to do. Something that would help someone get through the day or get up in the morning. I've been trying to wake up since 6 a.m. since I was like 16.
When you go to bed, envision your day, whatever you think is going to be the hardest thing for you to do the next day, literally go through it in your mind step by step. So I do this if I want to have a really long run, which I may not want to do, or if I know I have a lot of things to do, then literally go through it in your brain as the last thing that you think about, and your body will prepare itself while you're sleeping to get up and do that thing.
So like some visualization.
Absolutely.
And it sounds a lot like what you said earlier, where if you say something, you've already experienced it 3 times. I like that. That sounds like a biohack.
Yep. Visualize it as vividly as you possibly can, step by step, what you're going to do, what time you're going to do it, what you're going to smell, who you're going to see, all of that.
I love it. So then it's almost like you've already done it. So then it'll be easier the next time.
Absolutely.
I like that. Yeah. I like that for anything, cleaning the house, getting dressed in the morning on time, like just, any of those things, small wins. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us and sharing yourself and your story. I really, really, really enjoy spending this time with you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So
before we let go, you mentioned you did have a radio show. Do you care to tell our listeners what it is and where they can find it?
Yep. So 103.5 FM. If you live in the New Haven, Connecticut area, you can listen to me live every Wednesday morning at 10 a.m. You can also tune in on TuneIn Radio. If our station's ID is WNHHLP, and it is Mornings with Mubarakah. So if you just look that up.
That's amazing. And do you have a Facebook page?
I do. I am
Please.
Fit Muslima everywhere. FITMUSLIMAH. I am Fit Muslima on Facebook, on Instagram, on Twitter. So all of my usernames are the same. Or you can look up the hashtag I am Fit Muslima.
I love it. I love it.
Candace?
All right, cool. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this week. It's always a pleasure to be here. Please like and share the episode, our Facebook page at Breezy Moms Podcast. We're not on Instagram yet. I think we might be, but I don't think we are. We should be. But please share the show. It helps us get found by other people. Like the show, rate the show if you have a chance. It's the kind of thing that I feel weird like asking you to do, but it really does help us in the long run. So please do that. And you never know, someone might really need to hear what we were talking about tonight. And check us out. All of our episodes can be found on literally all of the things. So anywhere where you listen to people talk, you can find us there. Come back next week and every week. Until then, bye. This show is produced by Tom Ortiz at Digital Stream Radio. It's available for download on Podbean. Follow us at Facebook at Breezy Moms Podcast or email us at breezymomspodcast@gmail.com. Until next time, don't stress, just breathe.